New Zealand, 1941. With World War II well underway, a top team of government officials are gathered in the picturesque South Island countryside, chattering with excitement as they eagerly await the revelation of the nation's brand new secret weapon, a fearsome tank designed to crush any Japanese attempt at invading its shores. Among their number, the man behind the machine, Minister of Public Works Bob Semple, promises it will be like nothing they have ever seen before. And he's right. An audible hush descends over the group, as suddenly the strangest-looking armored vehicle they've ever seen emerges from the hillside. Trundling along at a painstaking 5 miles per hour comes an industrial tractor crudely covered with what appears to be corrugated roofing panels, looking more like a school project than a beast of war. It doesn't even have a cannon. Awkwardly grinding to a complete halt just to change gears, the 12-foot-tall monstrosity then wobbles onwards for a few more yards before hitting a bumpy patch, which sends her top-heavy structure crashing to the ground. Silence is broken by a combination of angry outbursts and mocking laughter as the crowd turns to Semple for an explanation. Yet when he asks if anyone has any better ideas, everything soon goes quiet again. The Japanese army could arrive at any moment, and his tank was all New Zealand had. By the late 1930s, Japan's increasingly brazen expansionist ambitions were casting a shadow of unease over the Pacific. With significant areas of China having already fallen under Japanese control, territories further south began worrying that they would be next, and New Zealand was no exception. If it were to stand a chance against an invasion attempt, it would need to build a solid defense, and armored units would be indispensable. However, at the outbreak of World War II, New Zealand's entire armored force at the time consisted of just 6 Bren gun carriers, not enough to take on the military might of the Japanese Empire. As neither New Zealand nor neighboring Australia had any armored fighting vehicle industry of its own, if they were to acquire tanks, it was assumed that they would be imported from their chief ally, Britain, still viewed by many at the time as the mother country. Yet, as the Germans rampaged across Western Europe in 1940, Britain would find itself desperately fighting for its own survival, stretching its resources to its breaking point. What's more, the logistics of sending supply ships over vast distances to the other side of the world would undoubtedly expose them to attack from enemy naval forces. Geographically isolated and unable to rely on external assistance, it looked as though New Zealand was on its own. Identifying the risk of potentially taking on an invasion without an effective armored force, one man took it upon himself to solve the problem: Minister of Works Bob Semple, known to most as Bob. Semple had a reputation as a charismatic firebrand. Though he had always been known as a man of strong convictions, with age he had also developed a more pragmatic side, which drove him to find practical solutions in unlikely places. Upon discovering that the New Zealand Defense Department had been inquiring about armor plates in the United States, Semple was reminded of a photograph he had seen of an American effort to convert a Caterpillar tractor into a fighting machine. Although it's not known with certainty, it's possible he was referring to the Diston 6-ton tractor tank. This was a simplistic design created around 7 years previously as a business venture to sell a low-cost armored vehicle to the U.S. Army during the Great Depression, though in the end it was rejected. While the idea had not proven successful in the United States, where other options abounded, Semple believed that it could provide an answer to New Zealand's urgent need for armored units, as tractors were common in a largely agricultural nation. However, with the prospect of Japanese invasion growing more likely at the time, Semple knew that time would be of the essence. If he asked the Americans for their blueprints, there was no telling how long they would take to arrive. Instead, he approached Thomas Beck, a public works engineer, to help him create his own version from scratch by simply using what they already had on hand. With no time to waste, Semple and Beck relied on improvisation as the project got underway at the Public Works Department workshop in Temuka. At the time, the department owned 81 D8 Caterpillar tractors, versatile and reliable machines with powerful 6-cylinder diesel engines. It was decided that the D8s would be provided with removable armored exteriors, meaning they would still be able to perform everyday civilian tasks, but could be swiftly converted for military use should the time come for them to defend their nation. With minor modifications made to the tractors, including an adjustment of their suspension, a lengthening of the track assembly, and a slight relocation of the driver's controls, the first prototype of the new vehicle was completed by June 1940. It replaced the existing tractor body with a 3-ply plywood mock-up of the armored cab attached to mild steel extensions. This was soon followed by a second prototype, with the body now also made of mild steel, and an improved 2-to-1 ratio gearbox, which necessitated a shortened engine compartment and widened sides. Unlike some of the sleeker, more streamlined tanks of the day, Semple and Beck's design was extremely tall and had a somewhat boxy form, with a height of 12 feet, a length of 13 feet 9 inches, and a width of 10 feet 10 inches. Weighing around 18 tons, it featured a turret intended to house a 37mm cannon in order to give it a robust defense against other tanks, such as the Japanese Type 95 Hago, which would likely play a prominent role in any invasion attempt. However, it soon became clear that it would be impossible for New Zealand to acquire any suitable cannon, so the turret was used for a 6th Bren 303 caliber light machine gun instead, joining 2 at the front, 2 at the sides, and 1 at the rear. With the 6 gunners, plus a driver and commander, the tank could house a crew of up to 8 soldiers. When it came to armor, Semple and Beck would once again have to find a way to make the most of what they had available. As the thick plating found on most World War II tanks could neither be imported nor manufactured locally, at Beck's suggestion, they covered the flimsy 8mm plates they did have with a layer of 12.7mm corrugated manganese plating. Though this would add to the vehicle's unusual appearance, it would be quick and easy to produce, and after extensive testing, was believed to provide enough protection to deflect enemy anti-tank rifle bullets up to 20mm. Despite some hesitation over the tank's unusual design, the New Zealand Army accepted that options were limited and approved the construction of 3 units, which began in January 1941 at the railway workshops in Christchurch. The first of the 3 was ready in less than a month, with the second joining it by March of that year. With the initial tanks now ready, Semple was keen to show them off to the nation. He aimed to lift the country's morale and promote patriotism by exhibiting these brand new, proudly homegrown guardians in a series of parades in New Zealand's major cities that spring. However, as his creations were unveiled to the population, it soon became clear that this would have the opposite effect. To Semple's dismay, the public and media ridiculed the design, making fun of its odd shape and spreading the myth that the tank's armor was in fact made from corrugated roofing panels. As the vehicle became widely known as the Bob Semple tank, the minister became something of a laughingstock, viciously lampooned in several satirical newspaper cartoons of the day. Though not all the criticisms of Semple's tank may have been fair, or even true, there's no denying that it did suffer from some serious shortcomings. The added weight from the tank's layered plating caused a significant drop in the tractor's top speed, managing just 5 to 6 miles per hour. In comparison, its potential rival, the Type 95 Hago, could go up to 28 miles per hour. The absence of a turret-mounted cannon was also a legitimate cause for concern. While the tank would be capable of attacking infantry units with its machine guns, it would be unable to cause much damage to other armored vehicles. To make matters worse, its bulky, top-heavy design led to significant rolling on uneven terrains, complicating mobile firing, and the vibrations from the engine caused violent shaking, which often caused blockages in the tank's machine guns and did little for crew comfort. In addition, the tank had a problematic transmission system, which required drivers to stop entirely before they could change gears. The absence of a hatch on the turret would not only have seriously limited visibility, but would have significantly compromised the crew's ability to evacuate quickly in the dangerous event of a fire following an enemy attack. In spite of these issues, the Chief of New Zealand General Staff, Major General Edward Puddock, believed the Semple tank had some potential. Returning from fighting in the Mediterranean, he observed a testing session of the Semple tank in October 1941 and praised not only the arrangement of the turret and machine guns, but also the skill and ingenuity of its design and manufacturing team in adapting a civilian vehicle for military purposes. Yet, it wasn't enough to save the tank. Semple's design continued to be publicly derided as his opponents used it as political currency, and the arrival of British Valentine tanks in New Zealand in the fall of 1941 reduced the necessity for a locally made armored vehicle. The decision was made not to proceed with further production, and the 3 existing units had their armored bodies stripped as the tractors returned to civilian use. As for Semple, he acknowledged that the vehicle was far from perfect, but defended its creation to the last, explaining, quote, "That tank was an honest-to-God effort to do something with the material at our disposal when raiders were at our back door. Instead of sitting down and moaning, we felt we ought to do something to manufacture weapons that would help to defend our country and our people." Notwithstanding the limitations of its design, the eccentric Bob Semple tank remains a unique icon of Kiwi resilience and wartime ingenuity, as full of character as the man who birthed it.